I hope you all know who was Queen Elizabeth II. Queen Elizabeth II, like her namesake, Queen Elizabeth I, did not pass her childhood in any expectation of the crown, and yet she became the longest reigning monarch of British history. We are going to talk about her today, as she passed away at the age of 96. Now, moving on to what are going to be the next, you can say, chain of reaction, we are going to discuss everything over here from the death. So, Prince Charles is now king after Britain's Queen Elizabeth II dies. By the right of being the firstborn son, King Charles has got this position. Of course, it is known as primogeniture, where the firstborn son is preferred to perpetuate the royal line. Moving ahead, now let's talk about Queen Elizabeth II. Her actual name is Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, or was Elizabeth Alexandra Mary. She was born on April 21st in England, died at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. She was Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, first, let's have a look what is the difference between Great Britain and British Isles and United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which you can tend to use simultaneously but not correctly. So, Great Britain comprises of Scotland, England, and Wales. When we add Northern Ireland to this Great Britain becomes United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, the Queen ruled over Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, but not Republic of Ireland. But when you include Republic of Ireland along with Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales, this becomes the British Isles. Alright. Now, as we see, she reigned from February 6, 1952 to September 8, 2022, when her father, George VI, passed away. Her coronation actually took place in the year 1953. The first ever Prime Minister she met was Winston Churchill, and during her reign, she saw 15 Prime Ministers. 2 days only, before 3 days only, we saw her, you can say, meeting the current Prime Minister of England, Liz Truss, with her at the Balmoral Castle. So, she belonged to the House of Windsor. We will talk about that as well. Moving ahead, certain things that we need to know about the dynasty, just in brief. Now, Victoria, Queen Victoria was the longest reigning monarch before Elizabeth II until in 2015, Elizabeth II outdid her. Victoria, Queen Victoria, belonged to the House of Hanover, okay? But she was married to the Prince Consort Albert, who belonged to the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha dynasty. And because it was a German origin name, the Prince Albert, he was German, they changed the name to Windsor. So, technically, Edward VII is the first king of House of Windsor, first monarch of House of Windsor, who was the son of Victoria. Then we have George V. George V had two sons, Edward VIII and George VI. Edward VIII relinquished the throne because he wasn't allowed to marry a divorcee, an American woman, and then George VI became the king. George VI had two daughters only, Margaret and Elizabeth II. So Elizabeth II was actually married to Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, who passed away last year only. And this is the entire image structure I have drawn. Now, as we move on to the future line of succession, so Queen Elizabeth has pretty many children, jolly many children. Charles, who is the king now because of primogeniture, the firstborn. She also was the mother of Anne, who is the Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward. Charles is the king. Camilla is the queen consort, who is the Duchess of Cornwall. Charles was earlier married to Diana, Princess of Wales, who died in a car crash. Then next in line after Charles, we have Prince William. And as we see, Prince William has two sons, Prince George and Prince Louis of Cambridge. So Prince Harry is also there, but he is not going to succeed because there are many people in line before him. And he is, of course, married to Meghan Markle. So that's not something we should be concerned about right now. Moving ahead, let us talk about this tweet which was done by the royal family Twitter page. As you see, a statement from His Majesty the King at the time of the Queen's death. So as soon as the Queen passed away, King Charles became the king. Okay, so this was through that one. Moving ahead, let us talk about the very important royal nature of having code words whenever a royal family member, senior royal family member, passes away. For Queen, since the 1960s, it was Operation London Bridge. London Bridge, it was supposed to be used if the Queen would have died in London. But because she died in Scotland, that was changed from Operation London Bridge to Operation Unicorn. Okay, so special provisions. If the monarch died when she was in Scotland, that is, of course, Operation Unicorn, because unicorn is the national animal of Scotland and forms the part of the royal coat of arms along with the Lion of England. Now, the day of the Queen Elizabeth II's death is known as D-Day. And after that, whenever one day passes, so we can say D+1, that is the next day of death, D+2, and so on. Now, what are the other provisions that we have to know? Shortly before the palace announced the death, the demise of the Queen, the BBC presenters, they changed into black attire when they broke the news. The national anthem was also playing. The flag over the Buckingham Palace was lowered to half-staff. The body now is brought from Scotland to Buckingham Palace in London according to the protocol. Within the first week of the death, has to be brought into the area of London within the first week of the death. And then on the 10th day, a state funeral will be held at Westminster Abbey. Now, because she was the Queen, the Prime Minister receives the monarch's body. Okay. Thereafter, Queen Elizabeth II will be buried in the castle's King George VI Memorial Chapel. So this is the protocol. Now, there are certain very interesting facts. As I started by telling you that she did not expect to be the Queen, but she had to do a job that she was never meant to do. So in 2015, she surpassed Queen Victoria to become the longest reigning monarch in British history. 7 decades. That's a huge, monumental amount of time. Queen Elizabeth II had 2 birthdays, one which was private on April 21st, she celebrated privately, and an official public celebration on the second Tuesday in June. Queen Elizabeth is the first and the only woman in history of the British Royal who has served in the military, in the women auxiliary forces. And she also was a mechanic during her tenure as she served in the military. Apart from that, in 1976, she became the first royal to send an email. You can see so many superlatives. Her life is filled with superlatives. And there was no need for the passport when the Queen traveled. Queen did not need any passport. At the age of 14, she also learned how to use a gun. So this is Queen Elizabeth's photograph. Now, what is the need of, or the role, we can say, of a monarch in British history or British polity, we can say? As a constitutional monarchy, it has the elected head, the Prime Minister, and the ceremonial head, that is the monarch, a hereditary head. Head of the state, she had the main functions as the head of the state, like appointing the Prime Minister and all other ministers, of course, like we have the President. To open new sessions of the Parliament, to give royal assent to bills passed by the Parliament, signifying that they have become law. Do you think any similarities are there between President and the monarch of Britain? As head of the nation, she was a focus for national identity, unity and pride, gave a sense of stability and continuity for 7 decades, and officially recognized success and excellence, and supports the idea of voluntary services. As governments changed, she was still the queen. Now, as the head of the Commonwealth, which is, you can say, a grouping of previous dependencies of the British colonial times, a voluntary association of 54 states, mainly former British colonies and dependency, many countries. She also served, the British monarch, we can say, served as the head of nations, such as in Canada, of course, United Kingdom, Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, Papua New Guinea, Australia, and other ones such as Bahamas, Belize, Jamaica, Caribbean nation, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis. Barbados actually replaced the monarchy with a republic on November 30, 2021. That means there the head of the nation will be elected in nature. Moving ahead, what are going to be the changes? There are going to be many changes because 70 years is a long time and she has given a lot of stability for being the queen over there. So there are going to be changes such as, because her symbol is used in many flags which are installed in many official buildings such as police stations across the UK, then Royal Navy vessels under certain circumstances as well. The British military flies the Queen's color of blue, red and gold, and her initials are also there on the flags at some areas. Some Commonwealth countries of which the Queen was head of the state, I said head of the nation before, it's actually the same, head of the state. So head of the state, wherever she has served it, so that is also going to be changed now. The Royal Standard, it is a quartered flag which represents UK and Scotland, might also change. And the new monarch might also decide to represent Wales in the flag. This depends on King Charles now. Other than that, the British national anthem, which is God Save Our Gracious Queen, it has been sung since last 70 years, but now it will be changed to God Save Our Gracious King. That means national anthem changes when the monarch dies, if the change of gender is going to be there. So since many centuries, God Save the King after Victoria was sung, and after Queen dies, after the Queen has died now, the national anthem will be changed again. And in my lifetime, at least, I can say I do not see any queen coming because there are only men in the line of succession. Currency of the UK will change because Queen's face is on the currency of UK. So British currency notes have the face of the Queen, and there are 4.5 billion pound notes in circulation, valuing at 80 billion pounds. Now this will change. Many years will be taken in that, and some coins to feature her face. Apart from that, several countries where she is the head of the state are also there, such as Canada and Belize. This is the note of Canada and Belize for specimen. Moving on, post boxes and stamps might change. Royal post boxes. Here we have Elizabeth Reginas, and here we have George, King George the Sixth. So certain areas in certain regions, this can continue. How? Because certain royal postal boxes still have the initials of King George, and it can continue so. But the stamp will definitely change because it has the face of the Queen. Other changes, because pledges are taken in UK under the Queen's names, in the Queen's names. Now this will change. How? Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth to His Majesty King Charles. So this can also change. Moving ahead, other than that, let's talk about the global reactions. What were these? India said that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II will be remembered as a stalwart of our times. Of course, this is by our Prime Minister. Queen Elizabeth II was a good friend of the United Nations. This is by UN Secretary General. In a message to Charles, Britain's new king, Vladimir Putin said that the Queen rightfully enjoyed the love and respect of her subjects, as well as the authority on the world stage, sending strength to Charles, King Charles. Her legacy will loom large in the pages of British history and in the story of our world, said by the President and the First Lady of the USA. Her Majesty loved the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth loved her. Commonwealth Secretary said this. Moving ahead, Let us talk about our prelims based question for you to answer. Once you answer this, I will take your names and comment in the next segment. So how many countries are a part of the Commonwealth of Nations? 51, 52, 53, 54. Answer this correctly. That's it. Thank you so much for watching.